You always this way? Mm-hmm. So you point to it. You don't say, I'll have the faith of Eddie because you don't know how to say that, right? You say, I'll have this one. Yeah. And you're Janet, yeah. Very good, yeah. I forgot my reading glasses. Can you read this to me? Yeah. I'll have what he's having. Yeah, I'll have what he's having. And your name is? Yeah, Cassandra. I love those places. Yeah, because you go into like Korean restaurants or some cuisine you don't know very well, and this doesn't mean the descriptions really don't come. You see the pictures. I want that. Yeah, I don't know why they're not more helpful. High-end restaurants. Particularly when it's the high-end restaurants, especially where the stuff never looks like looks like a pagoda or something. Okay, the check comes. What do you do? Michael? Well, I guess if you look at a credit card, that's the last thing. Mm-hmm. If you have cash, you just put a little extra, and when you think it was, then it'll just. How do you know? Well, just whatever has the most amount, the most numbers, the most digits, you get multiple bills, or you just hopefully it's right. If not thought before, you just say, oh, sorry, I thought that. You got anything else you can do? Yeah. What did you say? Sign and dash? Yeah. Just give some money out to say, here, take it, as you say, give money to take it out. Here. This is a fairly simple task. Imagine trying to get to a working day in a job which requires some literacy. And in fact, people become very elaborately good at doing this. And it's particularly interesting because it shows how pervasive these skills are. As I say, this term functional literacy does often tend to be, it's a little campaign of mine, tend to be misread. There's a site called Literacy Now. It says 47% of the nation, 1 or 2 Americans are functionally illiterate, as if that meant effectively illiterate. Well, no, it means not able to function in all of the roles. And there are instruments, there are tests for functional literacy that have been developed. One from Indiana. They're obviously pretty complicated. Map reading skills is one we didn't talk about, but is that functional literacy? Yeah, I mean, you are here on a. You go to a hospital and there's you're wandering around trying to find such a lab, and the sign says you are here. Can you read that? I never can actually. So that can be not functional literate. But people tend to take functional literacy to mean effective literacy. It's very much more specific skill. Moreover, we tend to think of literacy in our society as an individual skill. I'm literate, he's literate, she's literate. But really, if you think about, you can also think about literacy as a collective phenomenon. We speak, for instance, of a literate society. That doesn't necessarily mean that everybody in that society is literate or functionally literate. It means that the society uses literacy, uses newspapers and books, and has a bureaucracy and so on and so forth. Most societies in this world are literate societies, although not all of them have literacy rates at the level of developed nations. And in fact, even within a group, it isn't necessary that everyone be literate in order for that group to achieve what that society requires literacy for. Historically, for instance, there was the institution of the letter writers. In the lower right, there's a picture from France in the 1930s, I think, of the écrivain public, the public writer. You went to the public writer. In Italy, they had these until you went to the public writer, and you said, I want to write a letter to my son who's in the army, or my husband who's working in Paris, and so on and so forth. And he wrote the letter, and you put it in the mail, and you got a response, and he read it to you, and so on. That was a function. For the limited purposes for which, say, somebody in a small French town in the 1920s, agricultural, rural area, required literacy, it wasn't ideal, but it enabled that person to accomplish certain of the very important functions of literacy in his or her life. There were storytellers. People could read the newspaper. You often see these pictures in the 18th and 19th century of somebody reading the newspaper to other people, or reading stories from the newspaper. There's a character in Our Mutual Friend, Sloppy the Mangle Turner. He did the police in different voices, a line that Eliot used in The Bracelet, I think, right now. Even today, we are, to a certain extent, only literate in groups. The example, I think we talked about this before, so I won't spend much time on it now, but this group, the bunch of people sitting before me, is capable of setting up a router and installing Windows on a PC, right? I mean, if I said collectively do this, it would get done. If I went around from person to person and asked each of you to do it, my guess is that more than half would not be able to do that. But what does it matter? You got your IT guy, you got your tech support guy who can do this stuff for you. And if you think of that as part of literacy, it's after all, these are the tools of literate communication that we're talking about. Then we have a kind of group literacy, an ability to do it. I mean, setting advanced router settings is where you separate the. I used to say a minute for boys. I don't know if we said for the children from the grown-ups. But that's the place where I can see if I hands go. Advanced router settings, anybody? Yeah. Okay. Your taxes. Most of you probably at that golden age of youth when you could do your own IRS forms. But if you're not, congratulations on your startup. But at a certain point in your life, things will become complicated enough, so you're going to go at least to H&R Block or somebody and say, what do I fill in this line? So when you go to your registration forms, or which address do you want? You want my home address or my school address, and I'm moving, and so you have to call them up or go in to ask somebody at the library. Literacy skills, fortunately, are collectively available within the community, but aren't available to each and every one of us. It would be inefficient to insist that everybody know everything that's necessary to use all of the things that literacy requires of us. The growth of literacy. Blake covered a bit of this, more than a bit of this, in his discussion. So I'm going to go through it quickly. If you look at, and we'll talk just now just about Western Europe, over the last, since the invention of print, really, since the 16th or 17th century, literacy is generally growing, but not uniformly. I mean, there are periods when literacy actually declines for various reasons. Where does it grow most? Well, Protestant, rather than Catholic countries, tend to have higher literacy rates. Why is that? Well, one reason is that Protestantism it requires or asks for direct acquaintance with the scriptures, where in Catholic countries you don't really have to know how to read the Bible. In fact, there are stories about priests in Italy in this period who knew, could recite a few Latin phrases from memory, but basically were as illiterate as their parishioners. The North rather than the South. It's more commercial. There's more commerce. It's more urban, and commerce favors literacy. The urban setting favors literacy. So even in Catholic countries like France, you find the literacy rates are much higher in the North and the Northeast, in Paris and Lille and places like that, than in the South. People spoke about une France double, a double France, and I know one who's in marketing in France and says, we still have that. She's marketing for Procter & Gamble, and she talked about the different soap products that they sold in France. In the North is where you sell the low suds products, soaps. They will buy in the North. They won't buy in the South of France. If you don't have a lot of suds, it's not getting things clean. Different forms of tampons sell differently in those regions. So really, this distinction is lying through France still exists for a number of reasons. By the 19th century, beginning of the 19th century, by the rough measures available, about 80% of French men are literate. lower rate among women who are in the home who need less of it, and so on and so forth. It isn't until really to the end of the 19th century that those two rates, men and women, begin to equilibrate, begin to reach the same level. And as I say, urban before, but more literate, rural, men rather than women. In theory, literacy should go along with education. How many people are going to school? And in fact, very often, particularly in the developing world, you just equate literacy rates with the number of people who complete a 5th grade education. That's obviously a problematic index for any number of reasons. People go to school and don't learn to be literate. In many societies, people become literate without going to school. Schools often don't do very well in communicating literacy. I'll come to this toward the end here. But one of the reasons for the growth of the library movement in the United States in the late 19th century was the perception that the schools were just not doing their job. J.P. Quincy, one of the leaders of that movement, calculated that over the course of a 4-year public high school education in the state of Massachusetts, if you read aloud all of the works that students were required to read, it would take you like 26 hours. So that's as much as it was over 4 years. Very little reading and writing actually done in the schools. As I say, people look at literacy in different ways, and this is the most interesting thing about it. For some, literacy, making people literate, is a way of increasing their political consciousness. It can instill subversive or revolutionary or dangerous ideas, depending on which side of the line you're on. Bishop Samuel Wilberforce, who's the son of the Wilberforce, he's the son, right? Yeah, the one who pressed for really responsible for the elimination of slavery in the British Empire. Wasn't the Empire, the British, whatever, you can call it the Empire. Said too much education would make everyone unfit to follow the plow. You don't want to give these people education literacy because then they just won't be happy with their jobs, the jobs that God intended for them to do. Education without religion, someone said a few decades later, is a pure evil. Secular education without religion makes communists and red Republicans. There's this real fear that literacy is going to make people unhappy with their work and seditious and create revolution. Now, there are plenty of people who have this view who think that's a good thing. Exactly. That's what literacy is supposed to do. The Palladium of Labor, one of a number of working class publications, we'll talk about that in a minute, in England in the 19th century, there were also some in the United States. Educate first, agitate afterwards. Ignorance, superstition, and timorousness are the weapons that our oppressors have used most effectively in the past. People have to be educated in order to achieve the kind of class consciousness that's necessary to the revolution of the social progress that we have to make. Paulo Freire, Paul's a Portuguese specialist here. Brazilian educator, very interesting man. Early in his life in northeastern Brazil, ran education programs in which in a very short period of time enabled workers to become literate. When there was a military coup around 1945, I think he was clapped in prison. He got out. He was actually at Harvard for a year, but he wound up in Switzerland, writing about what he called the pedagogy of the oppressed. The idea being that literacy is the crucial element in creating a conscious proletariat for him, who will then be the agent of democratic change and social change. When Castro comes to power in 1956, first thing they do in Cuba is try to make everybody. It's one of the most successful national literacy programs ever accomplished. All the energy of the state goes into creating a universally literate population. And we talked about some of the seditious uses of literacy in the past. I mentioned the talking statue in the Piazza del Pasquino in Rome, where people used to post and still post seditious or scabrous or satiric verses about the mighty and the powerful. Now that Berlusconi's out of power, it's not the same. A friend of mine was talking about a friend in Rome. It's not the same. He used to go there. Wonderful things about Berlusconi. He gave him so much material to work with. There was also, in, as I say, the U.S. and Britain, what's called the radical press, a set of newspapers, usually newspapers sometimes published as pamphlets, because there was a circulation tax that the government imposed that would make you escape by publishing the pamphlets, aimed at the working class and at creating the sense of class, the common sense of belonging to a class. The great historian E.P. Thompson, we were talking about just a second ago, wrote a book called The Making of the English Working Class or British Working? The English Working Class. A book someone said that every historian would have given his left arm to have written, in which he described the process whereby working people in England became aware of themselves as belonging to a larger national class, mediated in large part by the radical press. The Political Register, Cobbett, a very interesting figure of this period. He actually began as a Tory, as a conservative, became a radical later on. The Political Register, certainly the most famous of the papers that survived. Richard Carlisle's Republican was even more influential at the time. What I've got in the middle there is a print that Carlyle sold. I don't think it was part of the Republican, of the Peterloo Massacre. Anybody know what the Peterloo Massacre was? 1819, Manchester, perhaps 50 or 70,000 working men, I suppose, working people, assembled to ask for the vote, which was then not available to them and was not distributed equitably among British districts. The county militia was called in, and then the hussars, they charged the crowd. 10 or 15 people were killed, hundreds were wounded. It became a scandal, and really one of the event that shaped more than any other the working class movement in Britain, and its importance was underlined by these radical publications. In the U.S. in particular, we mentioned the earlier Freedom's Journal, I think, but Frederick Douglass's North Star and William Lloyd Garrison's Liberator were enormously important in shaping the abolitionist movement in the North and in the South. They tried to get these papers down in the South, and it was very complicated. They would ship them down there. The authorities would confiscate them or burn them. They were very hard to distribute, but they were crucially important. Douglass, people have know about Frederick Douglass to some, I think, born a slave in Maryland, escaped when he was, I think, about 18, wound up in New Bedford, Massachusetts, became a leader of the abolitionist movement, certainly the most prominent and famous of abolitionists, along with Garrison, perhaps the most famous Black American of the second half of the 19th century. I'll have a word to say about him in a moment. I should also mention that we were talking about group literacy, and it's obviously connected to political consciousness. In communities, in working class communities where a large number of people can't read and write, doing the work of literacy is often performed by a few people within that group. One interesting example involves the lectores, lector is reader, in Cuban cigar factories. They form a union, the cigar workers in Cuba. They paid a lector. This was a time when almost all Cubans, certainly this class, were not literate. The lector read to them when they were working, sometimes novels, but often political newspapers and political works. And the political consciousness of this group was shaped by that practice to the point where the governor of Cuba made it illegal to distract the workers of the tobacco shows with the reading of books and newspapers or with discussions foreign to the work in which they're engaged. It continued surreptitiously nonetheless. Why was this a practice that you would expect, particularly in this industry? Workers hire somebody to read to them from political tracts. Why would that be something you expect, particularly in an industry like this one? Why not the steel industry or the mill or the... Yeah, it's got a rolling tobacco, right? I mean, it's quiet, right? They could do it. When the tobacco industry moved to, a large part of it moved to Florida, later in the century, beginning of the 20th century, it was continued there, the Licorice. And there are people alive today who remember this practice. The situation of black Americans, particularly in the South, reveals in a very interesting way the shifting attitudes about the social role of literacy. There were, in the South, a certain number of rebellions, of which the most slave rebellions, of which the most famous is that of Denmark Vesey. Whether that actually took place or not, whether it was really planned to take it may have been a hoped-up deal. I mean, the stories now aren't sure if it really happened. But Denmark Vesey was a literate slave in Charleston, South Carolina, who was accused of fomenting a rebellion. He and his co-conspirators were arrested. I think they were hanged. Later, Nat Turner in Virginia, that people know about Nat Turner, Nat Turner, also inspired a slave rebellion, in which a certain number of whites were killed. At that point, because they had used writing, among other things, to communicate, to plan the rebellion, and because it was felt that writing, as we saw earlier, would instill in people ideas about their station and make them unfit for field work, laws were passed making it a criminal offense to teach a slave to read and write. Frederick Douglass, he wrote several autobiographies. The first is something, The Life and Times of Frederick Douglass, I think it's called. The Narrative of the Life of Frederick Douglass, American Slave, tells a remarkable story. How many people have either read that book or been asked to read that book? So it's read quite a bit. Yeah, that's nice. You'll then remember this incident where he's sent to live with Mr. and Mrs. Auld around 1830. He would have been 12 years old, then, I guess, in Maryland, which is a slave state, and remains a slave state until after the Emancipation Proclamation, which were called free only the slaves in the secession, the states that seceded, since Maryland hadn't. The slaves there weren't free until the 16th Amendment, I guess, in 1865. Yeah, and your name is, I'm sorry. No, tell me your name again. She was saying that the white... Can you send me the link and then we'll open next Thursday with that? That'd be an interesting story. So he's sent to live with these two people. The wife is a kindly woman and recognizes he's a very bright young man. I think he's a house slave at the time, which means he spared the hardest work. She kindly commenced to teach me the ABC. After I learned this, she assisted me in learning to spell words of 3 or 4 letters. Just at this point in my progress, Mr. Auld found out what was going on and at once forbade Mrs. Auld to instruct me further, telling her, among other things, that it was unlawful as well as unsafe to teach a slave to read. If you give, and at the time as I would say this word because I'm a linguist reciting a passage from the autobiography of a black abolitionist who's putting the word in the mouth of a slaveholder in pre-antebellum America. What could be more? I don't use the word. If you give an N-word an inch, he will take an L. I don't know how long an L is, but it's bigger than an inch. An N-word should know nothing but to obey his master, to do as he's told. Learning would spoil the best in the world. Now, said he, if you teach that and speaking myself how to read, there would be no keeping him. It would forever unfit him to be a slave. This is what we saw Wilberforce saying before. But what's interesting, that is unusual. What's interesting and extraordinary is the following passage in which Douglas describes his reaction to hearing that speech by his master. These words sank deep into my heart, stirred up sentiments that within that lay slumbering, and called into existence an entirely new train of thought. I now understood what had been to me a most perplexing difficulty, to wit, the white man's power to enslave the black man. It was a grand achievement, and I prized it highly. From that moment, I understood the pathway from slavery to freedom, which was to become literate. He, in the rest of his life, probably with some irony, he always thanked Mr. Auld for creating for making his life possible. So that's the sense of literacy as a subversive force. On the other hand, literacy is also thought of as an instrument of moral improvement and self-control. Adam Smith, known for other things, writes that the more the poor instructed, the less liable they are to the delusions of enthusiasm and superstition, which among ignorant nations frequently occasion the most dreadful disorders. No, give them an education